Okay, next we're going to move into our market update. So this chart shows a 5-year moving average of ex-vessel value and ex-vessel price for Bristol Bay sockeye. I originally did this and I hadn't adjusted it for inflation. And so I was kind of curious to think, well, okay, how much of this is just due to inflation? You know, the I word's kind of the thing we're talking about these days. And it turns out even when you do adjust it for inflation, there's been a lot of growth. Since 2006 really is when this data set starts. And of course, we all know that wild fisheries go up and down each year. There's a lot of variability. When you look at that over a 5-year period, again, moving average, you can see there's been a nice uptrend. The 5-year average price is up 54%, and the 5-year total ex-vessel value is up 93%. So, you know, a lot of, there's definitely luck and good fortune to this, but luck is also the residue of good design. And there's been an amazing amount of investment, vision, and hard work. And this does not happen by itself. So, you know, kudos to everybody in this room, everybody in this fishery and industry that has made this really a successful industry. It's incredible. So that's also reflected in your permit values. Again, since 2006, we've seen a big increase in SF3T permit values. They're about $106,000 more valuable than they were back then. This is not adjusting for inflation, but I wanted to show the relative difference. You know, and of course, as the bay has done better, set netters have done better as well. You can see their increase there. And then when you compare it to the average permit value for all other Alaska fisheries, you can just kind of see the difference. And, you know, Bristol Bay has fared very well in recent years, as we all know. This is a chart I like to, you know, I think this really says a lot. And this is probably what I get asked the most about from fishermen is, okay, you know, what's our end of it? What's it worth, and what do we get of that? And, you know, are we getting a fair price and that sort of thing? So, you know, what this shows is essentially the resource value, the wholesale value of Bristol Bay sockeye products, and how much is retained by processors and how much is paid to fishermen. So the dark blue lines are the base ex-vessel value. The light blue is the bonuses and adjustments and quality premiums. And so you can see the percentages there. And again, some years it's a higher percentage, some years it's lower. So we put that orange line there to show you the 5-year average. You know, fishermen got a lower percentage in 2020, largely I think due to COVID, as well as, you know, the harvests in other parts of Alaska were not good. I believe outside of the bay, it was the worst season since 1979. And of course, the companies that operate in Bristol Bay as processors, they operate in many other fisheries and salmon fisheries around Alaska. So I'm definitely not making excuses or apologies for processors. These are the numbers, and you know, I want you guys to be as informed as possible. So we obviously don't know what 2021 is going to bring. I'll talk a little bit more about that here in some more slides, but you know, I think the only other point I want to make here is that what we've seen is that as wholesale value has gone up, you know, you see the rise in those bars, we have seen fishermen get a higher percentage of the value. And that makes sense. You know, the more margin that there is there, we would expect more competition to fill that. And you know, we hope to see that over the coming years, but we have seen signs of competition even, you know, since, well, I guess over the last decade. I mean, you know, Silver Bay came in, Extreme Seafoods came in 2014 with a big price promise and, you know, quickly exited, but North Line entered, and, you know, also we know what happened there, but, you know, companies are getting into this, and we've seen a lot of mergers and a lot of consolidation. These are signs of competition. This is signs of a very healthy economic situation for this fishery, right? And I think that over time, fishermen have benefited and will continue to benefit from that. So talking a little bit more about, where's the sockeye market right now? Supply-wise, global harvests were up about 10% in 2021, preliminary data, but basically a lot of that growth came from other fisheries in Alaska. So they nearly doubled the harvest volume, but like I said, 2020 was a really low year. So we're still not, other sockeye fisheries in Alaska are still not really to the level that they've been historically. But that's where the growth came from. So I believe it was like 10% is about 30 million pounds of sockeye, for context. Wholesale prices are at or near record levels. There's a really tight spot inventory. There's not much product available. If you're direct marketing, you've probably learned that in terms of what you've had to pay. So our big concern or hope is that we'll see that be able to be sold through the supply chain at these prices, but it's a really strong sign of demand. I mean, this is really an incredible situation where we're seeing things this tight and prices this high this early in the sales season. And that has a lot to do with high quality fish that you guys are all bringing in and the improvement in that, as well as the marketing that Lonnie and our team will talk about in a little bit. Export volumes and values are up. Farm salmon is up as well, but we're up more. And of course, in terms of the, what's the downside and the risks here, we know there's been supply chain inflation, shipping's very costly, there's been disruptions, but we're in a good place now. And if you want to learn more and go and kind of nerd out, there's a link here up in the top right corner. I encourage you to check that out, and we keep that updated with good market data. And I can tell a lot of you have from the website traffic, so thank you for doing that, and we'll keep updating it if you keep looking. Okay, so a lot of the frozen H&G sockeye is sold in July and August, and we have data through August, so we don't have it any newer than that. But if you track this back over the years, you can see that in 2021, a lot got sold pretty early in the sales season at a pretty high price, over $4 a pound, well over $4 a pound. So that's about what we saw in 2013, and we know, that year was a much lower harvest volume, right, and much lower sales. So it's amazing and excellent that we've seen, essentially seeing about the same price at almost 3 times the volume sold, compared to 2013 to 2021. In terms of, again, fishermen ask me all the time, okay, what does this mean for me? Wholesale prices, exports, the dollar, etc. Well, what this chart shows is the gray bars are the prior year's net processing revenue. So the difference between what processors sell it for and what gets paid to fishermen, that sort of gross margin. It's definitely not all profit, but it's a good proxy for how much working capital do they bring into the next year, and how successful were they in the market. And so you can see that there's a pretty strong relationship between pricing for ex-vessel pricing and that performance, that gross margin. And so, we don't know where final prices in 2021 will end up, but what we do know is that 2020 was a very successful sales season for Bristol Bay sockeye. Probably not so much for other Alaska salmon species, because there wasn't as much as there usually is of them. But yeah, processors did very, very well selling Bristol Bay sockeye last year, and I think that's explains a lot of the recent announcements that we've seen and the competition by the processing sector. And I apologize. I know I'm moving through this really fast. We have so much to cover, and we do have a section for questions. So we'll have some time for those, and we'll come back around to stuff if you have questions. This is my last slide. Looking at the average retail promotion price. This is products that you would see in the grocery circulars. and we average it out by year, sometimes quarter or month. But it's instructive to look at, okay, how do we stack up versus farm salmon? And you can see that, well, yes, we get a premium. If you've been in a grocery store, you already know that. That's not news. But maybe what is news is that since 2017, we've seen that gap widen out quite a bit. And so I think this really, there's a lot that is wrapped into this. There's a lot that goes into this. It's marketing, it's quality, it's sustainability, it's basic consumer demand. Why is someone willing to pay almost $4 more for Bristol Bay sockeye? Well, most of it's Bristol Bay sockeye, versus farm salmon. That takes a lot of work in a lot of different areas, right? But the performance is good. It's very good. Can we hold these price levels? We'll see. But I think it's hats off and kudos to the job that we've all done to be where we're at. Processors, fishermen, your RSDA, all of the sustainability groups,